Part 1. The Die is Cast. Prologue. A history of the Kuru Dynasty and Bhishma's heavenly origin. The Kuru Dynasty had begun long ago with the sun god Surya's children. They had been emperors of the world ever since, including the famous Bharat, from which the earth is named after. The Mahabharta begins with a Kuru emperor named Shantanu. One day, while the king was meditating by the Ganges river, he noticed a beautiful maiden whom was walking out of the river towards him. She was beautiful and majestic. The king's meditation broke and his mouth nearly dropped. It was love at first sight. Shantanu offered, "Oh, fair maiden, your sight excites me. Please become my queen and I will always protect you." She was impressed by his prowess, so she accepted. But under one condition: you may never interfere with my acts, no matter what they may be, and you may never address me in harsh words or I'll leave immediately. I accept. A year flew by and the king's wife gave birth to a heavenly son, but within days of the birth, the queen took her baby to the Ganges river and tossed him in, where he was swept away and drowned. Due to his wife's conditions, King Shantanu kept silent. This happened 7 years in a row, and the king managed to restrain himself from questioning the queen. But after the 8th child was born, the king could take no more. Seeing the queen leaving for the Ganges river, he ran after her and yelled, "Stop! Oh, cruel woman, why are you killing our children? You are earning great sins by your acts." His wife replied by telling him her story and true identity. "O king, in ancient times there had once been a king named Mahavishya. During his long lifetime he performed many great sacrifices, and as a result ascended to Indra's heavens. The king of heaven abode at the end of his life. One day, in an assembly of the gods, Mahavishya saw the divinely beautiful Mother Ganga. As he looked at her, a gust of wind suddenly blew her clothes up and away. All the other celestials looked away, but Mahavishya continued to gaze at her, captivated by her beauty. For this rudeness and lack of control, Lord Brahma, the grandfather of the gods, cursed the king to be born again on earth. The king accepted and was granted to become the son of the famous pious emperor of the Kuru dynasty, King Pratipa, who was your father, King Shantanu. That story was about you in your previous life, and know me to be Mother Ganga. Now listen as I continue to explain. I left the assembly thinking of Mahavishya's unashamed attraction for me, and came across the 8 Vasus, who looked very worried. I asked, "What's the matter?" And they told me, "We've been cursed by Vasistha to take birth on earth because we stole his heavenly cow Nandini, who could grant any wish." The Vasus leader Dayu had been implored by his wife to take the cow, and he reluctantly did so. Seeing his cow gone, Vasistha had used his celestial vision to see what had happened. When he did, he cursed the 8 Vasus. The Vasus heard of the curse and returned the cow, begging for forgiveness. The Rishi told them that the curse could not prove false, but he would allow them to have quick lives on earth. All but their leader Dayu. He would have a full life on earth. He would be destined to be virtuous, powerful, and learned in the Vedas, but he would not beget offspring. In fact, he was fated to abstain from the pleasures of women. The Vasus finished their story and asked if would go to earth so they could enter asked if I would go to earth so they could enter my womb. I asked who would be the father, and they replied that Pratipa would soon have a son named Shantanu, and that this prince was destined to be their father. And this was the same Mahavishya that I had been thinking about ever since the assembly. So I accepted the request and soon departed heaven to meet you here on earth. As Ganga finished her story, it all made sense to King Shantanu. The drowning of the babies had been preordained by destiny and was actually a good thing for them. The king forgave his queen and pleaded with Ganga to stay with him, but she would not. She told him she would take the baby to the heavenly realms where he would grow up to learn the mystical arts of battle and diplomacy from the sages. And when the time came, the prince would be returned to him. Ganga bade the king farewell and entered the river with the child. Years went by and the king ruled virtuously. He was so pious that he was known to heal people with just his touch alone. One day, while hunting, the king noticed that the mighty Ganga had become a weak stream. He walked up the river to investigate the cause and found a youth whom radiated with power, holding a bow. He had dammed the river using his arrows. Upon seeing the king, the boy disappeared. Shantanu called out to Mother Ganga to show him what he expected to be his son. She appeared from the waters holding the child and presented him to the king. He had been trained proficiently in the aspects of Vedic knowledge and had become expert in arms and warfare with Parasurama as his teacher, and had been named Devavrata by his mother, and she insisted he be made Prince Regent in time. But following tradition, he should have to earn the title through his deeds and not his birth alone, and Devavrata would do just that by stopping King Shalva's attempted attack on his father's city many years later.